What's going on, everybody? I'm Johnny Lee, and this is the Self-Sufficiency channel. Today I want to talk about something I've been feeling for a long time. In the age of information, there is no excuse to still be religious. Not no excuse to be scared. Not no excuse to be hurting. I get all that. I'm saying there's no excuse to keep clinging to ancient religious systems where better information is literally in your pocket. When I grew up, it wasn't like that. There was no YouTube full of debates, no Google in your hand. If you wanted to learn anything outside the Christian bubble, you had to hunt it down in libraries, and most of us never even got that chance. I grew up in full-on Christian insulation, Christian schools, Christian television, Christian music, and Christian books. Secular shows, off limits. Other religions, off limits. Critical books about the Bible, absolutely off limits. My mind was shaped around one book, the Bible. I started studying it at the age of 14 because I wanted to follow my father and become a minister. But something happened while I was reading. My rational mind started to wake up. As I read, I saw promises that did not match reality. Jesus says in the Gospels, "These signs will follow them that believe." You know the list. Cast out devils, heal the sick, drink deadly things and not be harmed. Paul talks about spiritual gifts in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and 14, the miracles, healings, tongues, prophecies, as if believers should be walking around doing this. So I did something very simple. I took the Bible at its word and challenged Christians. If this is real, show me. Do the miracles your book promises. Don't explain. Don't spiritualize. Just do it. To this day, all I hear is crickets. Because deep down, most believers know what I eventually had to admit. Those promises don't match reality. You can keep on repeating, God still heals. But when push comes to shove, nobody is drinking poison in church to prove Mark chapter 16. And nobody is walking through the pediatric cancer wards emptying them out. Now let's fast forward to today. We are living in a time where entire college courses on Bible origins are online. Historians have mapped out how Judaism, Christianity, and Islam evolved. You can read scholars from every angle with just a few taps on your phone. You can learn how Genesis was stitched together from older sources. How many times doctrines changed over the centuries. How much the Bible reflects ancient ignorance and tribal politics, not divine perfection. So here's my question. In a world where this information is that available, why are so many people still hiding inside the same old religious bubble? The answer is simple and ugly. Denial and comfort. For a lot of people, religion is a blanket, not a belief. They don't want reality, they want reassurance. They don't want to see the starving children, war zones, genetic diseases, people blown apart in places that supposedly belong to a holy God. So instead of letting those things challenge their faith, they invent slogans like, God has a plan, everything happens for a reason, or even worse, they're in a better place. It costs nothing to sit in a quiet, comfortable house in the West and say, I'll pray for them, while kids are literally starving or being bombed on the other side of the world. And let's be honest, a lot of the time, I'll pray for you is just code for, I'm not going to do anything, but I want to feel like I did. In many parts of the world where these religions were born, people are religious by tradition. You're Muslim because your family is Muslim. You're Christian or Jewish or something else because that's the soil you grew out of. They live where the so-called holy sites are. To them, Questioning the religion is questioning their entire identity, their family, their history. So I understand why it's hard for them. But for us, especially in places with free access to information, what's the excuse? You have every resource in the world to learn how these religions arose, to see how many gods came and went before yours, to study how heaven and hell weren't new ideas, to understand how much of this is human storytelling and power, not revelation. And yet people choose not to research. Why? Because they're afraid of what they'll find. Here's a simple challenge. If you are truly confident your God is real, your book is true, and your religion is solid, you should be able to look at any information without fear. Read the critics, watch the debates, study the history. If your God is real and your faith is grounded, all that should do is make you more confident. But if the only way your belief survives is by avoiding evidence, blocking out other voices, and staying in one approved bubble, that's not faith. That's fragility. So people think, I just bash religion for fun. If you've listened to me for any amount of time, you know that's not true. I attack religion because I believe it's destructive. It strips people of their individuality. Everyone has to fit the same mold. It trains you to outsource your thinking to a pastor or a prophet or a book. It hands you outdated rules from ancient tribes and calls it wisdom for modern life. You end up making decisions based on God told me or the Bible says instead of what actually reduces harm. What does the evidence say? What is best for real human beings right now? Even the Bible accidentally admits how bleak life is. The book of Ecclesiastes straight up says, the day of death is better than the day of birth. And it's better to never have been born at all than to see the evil done under the sun. That is antinatalist thought coming right out of your own holy book. The same Bible that says be fruitful and multiply also contains a writer saying, honestly, it's not better to bring new people into this mess. They almost didn't include Ecclesiastes in the canon for a reason. Now I want you to look around at the world. Children born into war zones, families wiped out over holy land, holy text, holy identities. People starving while others drown in luxury. Religions tell you, have kids, build families, be fruitful, multiply, but they never take the responsibility for what those children might face. If you bring a child into a world that you know is violent, chaotic, and indifferent, you are gambling with a life that never asked to be here. As an antinatalist, I'm not saying people are evil for having kids. I'm saying look honestly at the conditions you'll be dropping them into. If you knew a building was on fire and collapsing, you wouldn't carry a newborn into it for the sake of legacy. But that's what people do with this planet every single day. Then slap religious language on it to feel better. So let me give you the self-sufficiency alternative. What do we do with all this? If there's no excuse to stay religious in the age of information, what replaces it? Not another guru, not me, not some new holy book. What replaces it is self-sufficiency. Accepting that the universe is indifferent, accepting that life is often brutal and unfair, refusing to lie to yourself just to feel safe. Building your own meaning, your own ethics, your own path, rooted in reality and compassion, not ancient dogma. You are not obligated to worship a God who sits through the starving of children and the bombing of civilians and calls it part of the plan. You are not obligated to shrink your mind to fit a book written in the age of blood sacrifice and tribal warfare. You have a brain. You have access to information. You can use both. So in closing, in the age of information, ignorance is not always an accident. Sometimes it's a choice. You can choose to stay in the bubble, to repeat the same phrases, to avoid the evidence, and call that faith. Or you can choose to face the world as it is. Stop waiting for a God who clearly isn't coming, and start living as a self-sufficient human being. No one is coming to save you. Not from your suffering, not from your doubts, and not from your responsibility to think. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, life is suffering. Death is mercy. And if your God needs you to ignore reality just to stay loyal to him, he's already lost the debate.